America is faced with her worst domestic crisis since the Civil War, or since the Revolutionary War. For America now faces a race war.
All right, we get ready to start. We get ready to start, family. Okay, we get ready to start. Can you hear me? 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Okay, hold tight, family. My name is Brother Ray Ray. We'd like to welcome everyone. Hello, Ms. D. We'd like to welcome everyone to the B.K. Mackey's History Club. For the Zoom audience, give yourself a great big hand for coming out. And the people that's in the audience with us live, give yourself a great big hand. We appreciate you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we meet here every other Wednesday in honor of William Mackey Jr., Amos Wilson, the late great brother of Saab, the late great attorney at war, Alton Maddox, El Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Louis Ray Rivera, Minister Khalid, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Renovo Rashidi, Professor George Simmons, and Miss Leola Maddox. And in honor of Leola, I forgot my hat, with the unrelenting work she did with the United African Movement for Life. She had a moderately new and old car. She drove it all the way from Teaneck. And she believed in bringing lectures and having people come together for the dialogue of bringing African people together, and a serious speaker. And she would eat her dinner in the UAM because she believed in bringing people together. We want to thank Miss Leola and all the individuals who gave up fame and fortune, burned the midnight oil. They could have went the other way, as most of the historians do. That's on the payroll. El Haj Malik El-Shabazz, Amos, everybody. So we never want to forget these people because they gave up a lot and they could have did it another way. So we're going to bring the camera over to the Amos collection. This collection of books is to help Brother Sababu and African World Info System zoom in. And we have Amos's Classics, Blueprint for Black Power, Black on Black Violence, the Psychodynamic of Black Self-Annihilation in Service of White Domination. Sababu's latest, in honor of Amos, the Psychology of Self-Hatred and Self-Defeat for the Reclamation of the African Mind. And all our minds have to be reprogrammed, reclaimed. Issues of manhood in black and white, the falsification of African consciousness, awakening the natural genius of black children, and also African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order, which I just forgot to bring out. So we never want to forget Sababu and his unrelenting work to continue the work of Amos. And you mention his name, but please help him out because he's on fumes trying to put together another classic. So we want to thank Sababu. So we meet to try to help, and I have his books here. So I got some books for the listening audience, and I say it every week because books is the utmost. In honor of Dr. Ben, black man of now and his family. And Dr. Ben goes into everything that happened in the land of the black. There wasn't too many computers, and he tells you the different languages and the cultures that we had, how they built the pyramids, the statues, the different cataracts, and everything that's under the tombs and the great pyramids. And it's amazing how Dr. Ben put this book together. The stuff we built. And at a time we built all this great stuff. And we paid Asians to build statues. But we were once the great builders. So something has to be done about that. You should not be paying anybody else when you go to Egypt and see those great pyramids and how they put them together. No cranes, no forklifts. And they still haven't been able to find out. And every race that's down there grave digging always got the nerve to come up and say they did something, and we know that they didn't do nothing. So it's going to take a long time to come back, but things are starting to happen. All right, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, I read exactly wrong. I have 2 months for church for a year. No, I'm not reading. I work there. Yeah, so we're good.
Galaxy 8, Galaxy 8. Please, Galaxy 8, please mute yourself. So we have some books in honor of Louis Ray Rivera. His classic, Jazz in Jail. And Louis Ray used to come and speak at Mackey's when Professor Mackey left us too soon. And he would come down and speak for hours. And we would walk him back to Jefferson Avenue, which is only a couple of blocks away. And he'd speak for an hour and a half. And we only walked a few blocks and then stand on the corner. So honor of Louis Ray and his classic, Jazz in Jail. We'll never want to forget Louis Ray. In honor of the great Cynthia McKinney. Every time you hear either it's Donald Trump or anybody that's representing the global power of America, they always have a habit to say S-hole countries. Well, thanks to our girl, Cynthia McKinney. She wrote this book, How the U.S. Creates S-hole countries. So when you hear presidents, whether it's Donald Trump or anybody else, or people say other first world nations or S-hole countries, you have to see who's behind or why the country is supposed to be an S-hole country. So do Cynthia McKinney a favor and purchase the book, How the U.S. Creates S-hole Countries, edited by Cynthia McKinney. This is an excellent book. And also, she has went where no writer has gone. When China sneezes from the coronavirus lockdown to the global political economic. And Cynthia McKinney does an excellent job, and in my personal opinion, she was the only person that cared about the people of the state of Georgia. And on orders from higher ups, these black folks in Georgia ran her out. And from what I understand, she's working out of the country. She's the only one that cared about the people of Georgia, not those folks that's in there now talking all that nonsense. They was behind her ouster. So we must never forget Cynthia McKinney. Chancellor Williams, The Destruction of Black Civilization. This book goes into all the mistakes we made as a people. The great fighting warriors of the land of the black. Chancellor went beyond the call of duty and he talks about the Arab slave trade. Everybody talking about the European slave trade and how getting reparations from the Europeans. But you got to understand what the Arabs did to the African. Chancellor Williams talks about it. And not only the book, they also have a powerful study group out of Asbury Park, the Know Thyself Study Group, Brother True, and the brothers out of Asbury Park and Trust Graham is doing an in-depth on Chancellor Williams' work. So if you want to really find out the mistakes we made and how you talk about why black folks can't get it together and this and that, well, they didn't have it together in the land of the black. They did, everything was not okay. And that's one of the reasons that the place was so big. And that was one of the reasons why other people could come in and do what they did. Chancellor Williams. Also, in honor of Io Kamati, we have, everywhere you look, you got medical marijuana places, cannibal stores, cannibal. The Arabs are selling weed on Fulton Street and throughout New York and everywhere. Whites are selling it, whites are smoking it. They walking down the street, the brothers are selling it. The police can't do nothing about it. It's legalized marijuana. And it ain't like the old marijuana. I don't know what's in this stuff, but everybody is selling it. And you can thank Lyndon LaRouche, and he talks about a gentleman named George Soros, who's behind the legalization of weed. And it's a done deal. The only thing, in my personal opinion, that the Democratic Party has gave the youth is a smoke of weed. And it's disgusting because they can't even do nothing about it, and they selling it all over the place. So if you get up Dope Incorporated, it also talks about the Chinese opium drug war. It talks about the putting the dope in the black community to stop the Black Power movement, and everybody started getting high. Excellent book. Also, everybody's talking about reparations and having these meetings and all these people running around making a statement on what black folks in America should be getting, but they never mention this book. They never mention the hangings. They never mention what happened. They never mention what happened in Lynchburg. They never mention what happened where they was barbecuing blacks. They never mentioned the cutting off the arms. They never mentioned throwing a boy, putting you in a pot of boiling water. They never mentioned slavery, the European slave trade, not the transatlantic slave trade. It wasn't the transatlantic that enslaved Africans. It was the Europeans and the Arabs. So when you talk about restitution, you gotta go globally. You gotta hit them in the United States, you gotta hit them in the Caribbean, you gotta hit them in Africa, all these companies that made money. But they never mentioned this book. They never showed the pictures at these committees where these black folks sitting up there. And then you got people from other places got the nerve to sit up there and make a statement when they haven't fought for payment where they came from. So they over here talking this nonsense without sanctuary. Also, ladies and gentlemen, in this book right here, The Man Behind the Curtain, The Secret Network of George Soros. He's a bad dude, and his son Alex is taking over. But this is the man behind the curtain, and if you get this book, you will see the secret network that this guy is doing. And it's a chapter in this book, I think it's page 25, where he initiated this new phenomenon of reparations. When John Conyers had the reparation bill sitting up there in Washington and it was collecting so much dust, they wouldn't even look at it. And then when he passed away, Sheila Jackson Lee, so what the gatekeepers would say when the question would come up, they'd say, well, Sheila Jackson Lee is picking up the mantle, but she left us. So this reparations phenomenon is in this book, The Secret Network of George Soros, and you can get it relatively cheap on Amazon. Amazon ain't gonna never stop selling no books. This is another book, George Soros, The Untold Biography. And this is the title, The Life and Times and Trading Secrets of the World's Greatest Investor. So it tells you how he made his money, taking the gold out of Jews' mouth. And, oh man, it's ridiculous. And how they snuck them over here. So get this book. And number 3, The Shadow Party. How George Soros, Hillary Clinton, and 60 radicals took control of the Democratic Party, and he has complete control over every member of the Democratic Party and members of the Republican Party. So George Soros is a major player. Get the books and read the books and do the studies on this man called Soros, because he's running a whole lot of game. Black Identity and Political Activism in New York, 1784 to 1861. I want to thank the African Echoes group with Brother Trust for bringing out this book. And this is called African or American. In 1784, a lot of stuff was happening to us. We didn't have no rights, and we still was fighting. So a lot of people was claiming things and they ain't pay no dues in New York. They ain't pay no dues. So they need to be quiet. They need to shut up, or they need to get this book and read it and study what went on. How the Irish hung us from the lamppost during the draft riots. What happened in Seneca Village. What happened down in Wall Street, the 5 Points. We had a lot of struggles in this country and it wasn't for no jobs. Thank you, Trust Graham and the African Echoes family.
That book is by Trust Graham?
No. It's by Lisa M. Alexander and it's readily available. Ayo Kamati, War on the Horizon, and it's blockbuster. Jews are the problem, and Jews are the problem too, the psychology of the Jew. Ayo Kamate did an excellent work on these 2 books, and they're small reads, but the research behind it is unbelievable. So we want to thank Brother Ayo for coming up with these books. Now I'm going to come up with some other stuff. The Manchurian Candidate, Barack Hussein Obama, how the CIA insertion of Barack Hussein Obama into the White House. A lot of people don't believe it. But once you listen to Wayne Mansfield, and there's another author, Dexter Hartley, and there's another gentleman that got books, and Randy Short is excellent on information on this guy. So whether you like it or not, he's one. CIA. African slavery in Latin America and the Caribbean. So when you want to talk about reparations and bring up the atrocities of slavery and what happened, they whooped our behind in the Caribbean, they whooped our behind in Brazil, they whooped our behind in America, they whooped our behind all through the European slave trade. So stop talking about this crap when we have these forums, as Sister Keisha says, and Sister Brooke and Brother Tad, and bring up the atrocities that happened in the Caribbean, in Latin America, in Brazil, in Mexico, in all these places where they dropped us off all over the world. And then they got the nerve to tell you that you're against the other person. The only difference is they dropped you off in Haiti, they dropped you off in Jamaica, they dropped us off in Mississippi, they used to break us in the Caribbean, then they just got so barbaric, they had us on the bowels of the ship all the way across the Atlantic. The European slave trade. So this is another excellent book. So bring up the whole information and stop the silliness at these committee meetings and bring up the truth. African Echoes and Trust Graham, Angola, the Zinga of Angola, Queen Nazinga, and this sister was so vicious in dealing with the Portuguese. And a lot of women should read about this sister. Because once you read how serious warrior she was, a chump can't say nothing to you. Because you be so sharp. So read about her. And she negotiated full force with the Portuguese. They are not your friends. We want to thank again Trust Graham and the African Echoes family with this book. So when you read this book and these guys start talking all this nonsense, you'll put them in check. Dr. Scott Whitaker's classic, Medicine. He's out of Georgia, and his book is phenomenal. The causes, solutions, and the disease to malnutrition and the medical sins that are killing us. We want to thank Dr. Scott His book is readily available. We have it here. Excellent book. Thank you, Dr. Scott. The American Medical Killing Machine. Finding facts that could save your life. This is Children's Health Defense, and Robert Kennedy, like him or not, but he got some books out, and if you want to understand it, you read the book, you take what you want, and the rest you leave. The Wuhan cover-up, the terrifying bioweapons arm race. Now all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, you got some kind of disease running around only in Harlem. Only in Harlem. Vax versus unvax, let the science speak. Children's Health Defense, Robert Kennedy. The Unspoken Alliance, Israel's secret relationship with apartheid South Africa. So when you look at South Africa, you got to understand who's running the place. I don't care who they bring up in front of you. It's people behind the scenes in South Africa that's running everything in there. I want to thank you, Holy Alliance. The real Anthony Fauci, please read about this guy. He's dirty. The real Anthony Fauci, Senator Rand Paul deception, down the 19 rabbit hole, another independent science, capitalism on the ventilator, all the money that was made. And see, we have our, and this is Edward Dow, causes unknown. The epidemic of sudden death syndrome, 2021, 2019, 20, 2021, 22, 23, 24. And the young athletes, the football players, the graphs, and he worked for BlackRock, and they wanted to know, according to the book, why people were paying their premiums. And then all of a sudden, after the 2019, they dropping young, healthy individuals in their prime. So get this book and read it. Take what you want, the rest leave it. We want to thank Edward Dow. I want to thank Amy Kelly, Pfizer's crime against humanity. And they took Pfizer to court under the Freedom of Information Act, and they made, Pfizer wanted to release this 75 years later. They didn't want you to find out. And another book is coming out, the Moderna Papers. That is coming out, it's supposed to be out already. So read what they wanted to hide. Because I'm tired of going to these funerals. I'm going to too many goddamn funerals. The ultimate vaccine timeline. This is the fact-finding history of vaccines and the makers. And this book goes all the way into 1884, 1885, 1775, 1776. Every vaccine made, they go into the timeline. They go into the companies who make this stuff, the drug companies, the millions of dollars that they make. So you get the books and you read it. But see, we at the Mackey's Group, we have our own doctor. We have our own person that would come and tell you what's going on. So after you read that, you come and listen to the doctor. And the doctor's gonna relay it. He was so bad, they took his video off. As soon as I put it on, they said, you better take that thing off. And what he said, everybody is saying now. And the doc said it way before. So I got some community events that people could get into. You log on, and these programs are on. You got Thorough Black Talk, Brother Tad, Keisha, Brother Black, and the new added Sister Mama, a.k.a. Sister Marcia, and Sister Brooke. That comes on Thursday, tomorrow, live on Facebook. It's the hottest show on the East Coast. And Sister Keisha and the gang is bringing it in. Give them a big ups. Also, our Philadelphia connection out of Philly. Sister Empress Chi, Brother Lumumba, Brother Black, El Pollinator. They are coming down, Sister Pam, and they letting me know everything that's happening in Philly. The phone number. That program comes on Saturday at 10 o'clock, and it's a Zoom, and you can log in, and sometimes we be getting it on Brother Moses, and we be talking and laughing. And Sister Taisha, we be laughing and arguing, but Sister Empress have us on key. We want to thank the Blog Talk family, because I be on it and we be having fun. Okay, Ayo Kamati. Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. This program is so good because at 9 o'clock, Brother Anthony Mohammed, every Monday at 9 o'clock, you have Dr. Haru. He has a health program with the products he's selling, the studies that he has behind his products. He comes on from 9 to 10, and then Blockbuster Ayo Kamati, War on the Horizon, and his 2 books, Jews Are the Problem and the Psychology of the Jew. Ayo Kamati comes on at 10 o'clock to 11, and you can call into both of these programs with any kind of health problems you want to ask, and the products that people sell, so it's just readily information. It's Sankofa Revolutionary Radio, and that comes on every Monday at 10 o'clock. Also, 9 to 10 is Dr. Haru, 10 to 11 is the Genie. Also, our Power Pack brother, Darren Muhammad, State of the City out of Baltimore. He has a Blockbuster program, comes on every Saturday at 12 o'clock, and he comes on Wednesday with the Thursday State of the City. It might be Wednesday or Thursday, but we want to thank Brother Darren Muhammad, and he's got to bring on Dr. Scott Whitaker, so he's giving up a lot of stuff that's going on in psyopsis. Thank you, Brother Darren. Also, every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Project, he has a Zoom meeting that comes on, and Dr. Aline be laying it down. The live program is at 3 o'clock, and it's a rebroadcast. He comes back and gives you the rebroadcast if you didn't hear it. So we want to thank Dr. Aline. Your Immunity Project, that comes on Dr. Aline every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, and then it's rebroadcast 7. But the 3 o'clock program, you can call in and ask him anything you want. Good, bad, or indifferent, and take his advice. We want to thank you. The African Echoes family, Brother Trust Graham, Brother True, and all the gang out in Newark, New Jersey. They have the African Echo Study Group. That's Friday at 8 o'clock, and they're doing the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat through the reclamation of the African mind. And Trust in the Gang is 8 o'clock. Not only that, the Know Thyself Study Group out of Asbury Park, they give you a double header. You could come in on Friday and listen to Trust with the psychology of self-hatred, and then they give you another Blockbuster and go in depth to Chancellor Williams' great classic on the mistakes we made as a people. That Saturday study group is very serious, also the Friday. We want to thank the African Echoes family with the excellent information, Brother Bruce and everybody that comes on. So we want to thank you. The Cenotaph organization with Dr. James McIntosh, Richard Dean Theodore, that's the Minefield program. And they're continuing the fight against Netflix on the very disgusting television series redone by Netflix. It's a disgusting, disgraceful, and there's some other black folks involved, like Steph Curry don't have better things to do with his money. So we're going after Netflix, but see, Netflix and them Hollywood Jewish moguls that control the entertainment industry, what they do, they're bringing a disgraceful, disgusting cartoon depicting black people, black fathers, and they just destroyed that Good Time series, which we honored. But they will get these other bums and give them other programs put on by Netflix, concerts, television series, and they go on. and then have you forget about this good time. They don't respect us. We're not gonna get anything because we're not being respected by the entertainment industry. They buy and sell black folks a dime a dozen. So we want to thank the Semotap organization and the other organizations that come out and march and help the protest, and a lot of people are aware. See, you got to remember, when they came out with the movie The Gangs of New York, the Irish was not happy how they portrayed them in that movie, The Gangs of New York. The Italians was not happy because everywhere you go, the Italians, they only mobsters and killers and this and that. So they did not like it. But as soon as you say something about them, they got a whole bunch of problems. So we want to thank the Semotap organization for coming through. The UNIA, they have the parade in Harlem. I went to the one in Queens with Dr. Mack and Brian and all of us, even the Grands was there making a little noise. So what they're trying to do is reprogram us. We have the Rock store on Merritt Boulevard where it's a mini Jetro's. So what they're trying to do, Raymond and Michael is trying to reprogram us to say, at least you spend your money wherever you want, but at least come out and support the Rock. It's on Merritt Boulevard, right across the street, 13205 Merritt Boulevard. And they have everything in there, right across the street from the Home Depot on Merritt Boulevard. So at least once a month, if you can, twice a month. And you spend some money there. Everybody in there is nice, respectful, and that's what they're trying to do, is reprogram us, myself included. So we want to thank the UNIA, and they're going to have their big parade in Harlem the 17th. So those are just some events where some organizations is trying to reprogram black people to stand up because they disrespecting us and they got us going against each other and talking all this nonsense. So ladies and gentlemen, a good friend to the Mackey's History Club, come in and talk to him, go on BK History Club, look at his 13-part series on Burkina Faso and the Sahel region, what he's coming down with, and study it. And if you got any problems with any other videos, you could come down here and talk to the speaker and question them yourself. And that's the blessing of the lectures. You got a problem with what's went on with the information, come down here and speak to him. Speak to the speaker what you don't agree with. And if you want to know anything about what's going on with health, you come down here and talk to Doc. Been a good friend to the Mackey's group, and he's always coming down, doing us a big favor. Africa, World Economic Forum, and the Great Reset, because what they're trying to do, it looks like it's working. Some of these stores you go into, they do not take cash. You have to use your credit card. And then when you don't pay the whole bill, they throw the charge on there. They're not taking cash. So these people are trying to do the same thing. So ladies and gentlemen, give a great big hand to our keynote speaker, Dr. Arthur Lewis. And we couldn't get in, we was running late, so it's gonna be a late night, family. We had a lot of problems, couldn't get in the door, but we still on, and that's what we're talking about. Come on, Doc.
I was just remarking that Ray Ray's presentation every time we meet is a lecture in itself. And that's what you need to constantly remind us about what it is we're trying to do. I want to thank the African community here in Brooklyn, New York, and the globe to appreciate the fact that I and all of you listening and participating have to give ourselves thanks that we made it another day. Very, very important that you make it another day. One of the ideas and concepts that we have and we can share with each other is, what is it that we know, have experienced, and how can we pass it on to those who we interact with? So, in keeping with the spirit and the participation of Mackey's lecture series, African lecture series, I want to extend my appreciation for being given an opportunity to participate with you. Tonight, what we're going to speak about is a number of topics that I feel is important to consider. So we will be in different time periods. We'll be talking about history in the time period 100 years ago, and then we'll come up to present day, and then part of the presentation will be in the United States of America. Another part, we're going to come over to see what is happening in certain parts of Africa that relate to us. And then we try to connect it with what is happening on the Asian continent. So every presenter presents an aspect of information that hopefully we can all benefit from. So there's no such a thing, as far as I'm concerned, as the one type of information or this type of information was more important than that. We need it all. So that with that in mind, I want you to keep in consideration that every presenter we have to respect, and every presenter that comes has something valuable to impart to all of us. So there's no such hierarchy as he spoke better about this and he did not speak about this. The importance is to help us introduce to each other different aspects of living that we need to help us in the future. The presentation that we're going to present is going to be in 6 pages. And as I indicated before, the way I have designated to do the presentation is in literature, information, maps, and charts designed to illustrate what we're trying to get over, to make it easier for you to understand, and for those who hold on to the handout, if you want to begin to do more study in a particular area, then that's what it's intended to be about. The first page will be on Smedley Butler, that we talk about almost every time. And the reason that I like to open with Smedley Butler is because it gives our audience a snapshot of part of the important history of the United States of America. Why? Because we live in the United States of America. So what we try to do is not center what we talk about and specializing in any one area, but we're trying to show the interconnection. The second literature paper that you have in front of you, we have presented before, and it relates to who makes the domestic and foreign considerations for the United States of America. and it's going to be a short synopsis. The third sheet that you have is a map of Central America and a small part of South America to illustrate a certain point, because certain ideas and concepts that you try to communicate, you have to see visually. Maps, you have to see it. Of course, many of us haven't seen what I'm going to present. Many of us have seen it, they got to relook at it. Then, the second half of the presentation, we're going to deal with the United States of America and Europe and how they connect to each other. The fourth and fifth sheet, we're going to deal with the relationship between Africa, specifically the Sahel nations. Those Sahel nations are, as we said before, a strip of countries that run from east to west in the northern half of Africa. And when you hear the word Sahel, what will pop in your mind is Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Eritrea. So it's a strip of countries that run from west to east, spanning about 5,000 miles from east to west, reminding everyone that when you pick up a map of the United States of America and you compare it with Africa, you can put the United States of America into Africa physically 4 times. You can put the United States of America 3 million square miles. You can put Australia, you can put Europe, India into Africa. Africa is the second largest continent as they label it. Okay, so what we want to do is I'm going to start off with the first sheet with Smedley Butler's intervention, but I'm not going to read the Smedley Butler intervention handout. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes. So what I did was compilate the important facts that's in Smedley Butler's War is a Racket. As we say, he was a white American general who served in the military, the Marines, and he reached one of the highest ranks. Why are you repeatedly start with Smedley Butler? As I said before, is because he gives you an excellent review of what the United States was doing in the latter part of the 1800s and the 1900s, so you understand what they were doing. Because what he tells you, that connects the United States of America with Asia, with Central and South America, and Africa. So even though the United States has 2 oceans on each side, the white Europeans who took over what you call the United States of America, they were active in colonization and genocide around the world, just like the French was, just like the British was in the Spanish. So I'm going to read War is a Racket. So for those individuals who don't have the handout, what is it that Dr. Lewis wants you to hear? And what War is a Racket is, Smedley Butler was a general who was active over a number of years, and he's summarizing in his 5-page pamphlet. This is what I did for the United States of America. This is was the job that they gave me. So that as you listen to what he did, you will show the history of the United States of America. So that when anyone presents to you, and they present a topic that doesn't deal with reparation, it doesn't deal with voting, it doesn't deal with things that people are concerned with that are specific to the United States, that's exactly what is supposed to happen. Those who want to stay concentrated will only consider certain things, local, state, city, elections, perfect. We need to know about that. But each country, and especially the United States, the people who run the country has two agendas. They have a domestic agenda and they have a foreign agenda. So we're not concentrating just on the domestic, or what this vote did and what the president did and what he did. We talk about that, but we want to talk about what United States of America, and I use that as a sentence now because we're all living here and people want to know about it. Okay, so this is what Smedley Butler said. War is a racket. The majority does not know about it. Talking about the vast majority of the population. It's restricted to a small inner group. The benefits very few at the expense of the masses. The he indicates they have a fingerman. That's the one who identifies who is the so-called enemy. And then they identify who's supposed to be your enemy. Then he says there's a muscle man. That's him who will go around in the military to be sent to take from other people. Then he says you have your brain men who plan and prepare us military to go out and steal from everybody else. And then he said you had, pulling all of the strings, the big, best, super nationalist capitalism. So he identifies what he's telling you. You have a small group of people who are running the United States of America for the benefit of this small group. And they call themselves super nationalist capitalism. And we'll throw in a little tidbit when we ask one of the other speakers. Summarize the United States of America. He says, oh, stolen land, stolen people. That's the history of the United States of America. And as we go and talk about which country had technology, and this technology transferred to this, and this technology transferred to this and this, then you backtrack and you say that when what is now the big China, People's Republic of China, after the Chinese Civil War in 1949, and China became independent and it was highly, quote, undeveloped, and it was the Soviet Union that assisted Communist China to get its independence. And it was the Soviet Union, which is now called Russia, which put in the basic infrastructure into China to bring them from where it was in 1949 up to at least 1970. And then from 1970 to now, technology was transferred into China, primarily by the capitalists in the United States and the capitalists in Europe. And people said, oh man, the Europeans brought here. The Europeans, basically the white Americans and Europeans, brought a certain type of technology into China to allow them to reach this level. Then when you go into the booklets and say, how many Europeans migrated to the United States? So if the United States brought a significant amount of technology to China in 1970, where did the white American get that technology from? What technology are you talking about? You mean wood making, iron, steel making, copper, glass, electronics? All of that technology that you have in schools that you look up to, electromagnetism and stuff, European and the Americans brought it to China. Back it up. Before the white people killed down the population in the United States, you have two basic types of people in what you call the United States? Indigenous? People who were brought here from Africa? And people who migrated from Europe. Those are the major three groups that we recognize was here. Why did the Europeans participate in the European transatlantic so-called slave trade into Africa? What did they do? What did they bring back? They brought back unskilled Africans and skilled Africans. The same Africans they brought built Washington, D.C., all these modern building types, all of the steel and everything. The technology that United States got, to even transfer it to China, they got it from Africa. Industrial Revolution, clothing and metal. So that technology that China has, that was sent there, you document from the Europeans and Americans transferring it in 1970, those Europeans got the technology from Africans brought here. And you look at the book, all of that inventions that African made. So people say, and they fix in their mind, they brought technology. No, you got to back it up. It was the Africans who were brought here who built the country, the roads, the buildings. Let's go fundamentally. In any society, we're all right now left here, and you go into a rural community in the United States or any place else. The foundation of your existence is the soil. That was the main thing there. What did Africans who were brought here not only build all these buildings and architectural plans and everything else, what did they do? They grew all of the food. Europeans didn't know how to grow corn, didn't know how to grow cassava or anything. You were brought here because they went there and saw that you were master agriculturists. So when you say Russia industrialized China big China from 1949 to 1970, that's the technology that they got from the Africans. And from 1970, which is the technology the rest of the world is using, it came from Africa. There's no workmanship that you cannot see, even in the museum, when you see iron and steel, etc. It's all African. So when people try to minimize the contribution of African, oh, we African, well, the African in the United States, we're on the lower scale. What are you talking about lower scale? When the English came, they brought their Irish slaves who couldn't work. So the Englishmen didn't know how to grow anything. The Irish didn't know how to grow anything. That's why they had to come again. So don't let anybody minimize your quote unquote significance. Critical. Okay, so we'll go on because we have to get that straight. Big business. So he's saying now, who did we go? Who is military us? What were we doing in the Caribbean, Central South America? What were we doing in Asia? The people of the United States. Big business, Wall Street, bankers, and capitalists. So he identifies who's running the United States and who benefits from it. And then he tells you in there, he went to Mexico for the oil, Haiti and Cuba for National Bank. In Central American countries, he went for Wall Street. Nicaragua, he went for the Brown Brothers. Dominican Republic, sugar. He went into China for the opium wars. That's what Smedley Butler is telling you. So that's why I like to introduce him to it, so that we fully understand that what you see in the United States of America would not, you put it there. And you ever look at some of the movies that go past the history, and when one white person farmer to another white person farmer, he wanted something built, that white farmer, or white, whatever you want to call him, he had, who did it? Well, I'll bring my work crew. So who's the work crew who didn't clean the land? Who put up the internal infrastructure. Who did all of the work? Africans built the damn country. Okay. The second paper that I'm on this list, we're not reading it. But what it is, that second paper, I'm only going to tell the audience where you can look it up. We're not going to read it. We read it over and over. And what it's called, what's its title? The U.S. Congress literally doesn't care what you think. Let me say it again. You actually have the copy in your handout, but for the people who don't, who want to understand how the United States government works. Local, state, federal. U.S. Congress literally doesn't care what you think. And then it goes on to give you the documentation here and tell you how the country works, okay? So let's clear that up. The other thing is, let's talk about, briefly, the government of the United States. See, I want to get the United States out of the way, all of the niceties, then we're going to really show you, in the middle, who your people who are running these. The U.S. government, is it a democracy? The answer is no. Because democracy, each so-called citizen has a right to not only vote, but to make the decisions. You don't make the decisions, so technically, you're in a republic. A republic means then that you have representatives who go to Congress, who go to the state, who go to the city, and they vote for the way the country is going to run. So a republic is, you don't get to vote, you have representatives, okay, districts. Is it a fascist state? The answer, the United States is fascism. Whoever made up the definition, their definition of fascism as it relates to governmental structures, you don't have this, I'm reading it from my sheet, but I want you to hear it. Fascism is when big business, private, work with the government to run the country. So the foreign and domestic policy of this country is not run by Congress, it's not made by the president. It's the donors, it's the rich people, rich class. And you can look that up. So it's a fascist, this is a fascist country because corporations and the government work together. The government don't work together with you and me. And the fourth one, is this a dictatorship? The answer is yes. A dictator is when you have one entity or one or two entities making the rules and regulations for everybody. And what is the dictatorship? The presidency of the United States of America. Whoever is the president of the United States of America, the way they structure it is a dictator. Because all of the rules and regulations that's supposed to be made on your behalf is supposed to be made through your representative. In this case, the federal representative is Congress, is the, what you call a Senate, and House of Representatives, correct? In the second sheet that you have, that Congress don't care, he tells you point blank that the Republicans and Democrats, men and women who are your, 100 senators and 400 and something Congress people who are supposed to be making all the rules and regulations for you. And it tells you right there that 90 to 95% of all laws passed in the United States, federal, state, and city, reflect what the corporations, rich people want, and they don't give a damn about you. That's what the study said. And you can look up who did the study and so and so. So that's why we present that, because people, they don't teach civics here, and they don't understand America this, America that. Okay, so, and what's the dictatorship? You have a president right now. You call him Trump. He's making laws that he's not supposed to make. Tariffs, I use tariffs as an example. According to their rules and regulations, they don't mean anything. they're supposed to make the Secretary of the Treasury and other governmental are supposed to be structuring how the country's going to run economically for the benefit of everybody, but we know that's not it. So a dictator, every time the President of the United States writes an executive order, it's law. What are you talking about? It's law. Law just means that rule that somebody made up, you have to follow. So when the President of the United States writes an executive order, like Franklin Roosevelt wrote the executive order to incarcerate the Japanese during World War II. Incarcerated the Japanese, put them in concentration camps, city reservations, because they were a threat to the government. I don't know the number, 50,000, 100,000. Took all of their property away and said, you were a threat. Then Roosevelt wrote that. And it became a law, and they acted on it. That's what your dictatorship is. Okay? They all write executive orders. So you don't have a you have a dictatorship. Now, what I'm going to do before we get to that first diagram, which is a diagram, a map of Mexico, Central America, and a part of North America, South America. In the relevance you're going to find out, so when we finish, hopefully we will convey, not that we can stop it, exactly the direction in which the country of the United States is going. Okay. So we're going to mix a little bit of global trade. So it might seem a little disjointed, but I have to go back and forth to illustrate a point. With all these tariffs, there are farmers around the United States, mainly white farmers, the mass, that grow corn, soybean, a number of these products. Most of the agricultural products that the farmers in the United States grow, they're almost all white. The potatoes, the cassava, the potatoes, corn, wheat, all of those foodstuffs. Most of that was purchased by China. China said we're not purchasing any more of that. So the tens, hundreds of billions of dollars of agricultural products, the beans, the peas, China just cut it. And China is saying, I'm not going to buy from the American farmer anymore. So they're going to get it from the big guy, Brazil, Argentina, Mexico. So these three countries don't need the United States of America. So therefore, these farmers are losing hundreds of billions of dollars, and the corn and everything is rotting in the silos. So therefore, they can't pay for their property, the property taxes and everything. And the reason that I bring that up is to illustrate to you what is happening in the next chart row. So you ask yourself the question, I'm a white farmer, I'm going broke. So I go to the bank and say to the bank, I have this property. I want to sell it. Every white farmer, I want to sell it. Bank goes there and says, okay, show me your deed. You know what a deed is, right? Where you say, deed, what are you talking about, deed? Let me go in there. You see, the white farmer, a deed, they had something they call, let me see where I wrote it. Let's see, they have something they call, I can't find it in my note, but I'll tell you because I just wrote it. in Georgia. You want to sell your land in North Carolina. You want to sell that vast agricultural land that you growing all this crop out west. But in order for you to for you to sell your property, I have to show where you purchased it. Did any white farmer ever purchase anything from the indigenous people when they pushed them off the land? And then when you had that who's the guy who got killed by the Indians? Custon and the black soldiers, Buffalo soldiers, who wiped out the indigenous people there? So in other words, all you white people who got farms in the United States, you don't have a deed because you didn't buy it from anybody. It was given to you. Martin Luther King told you in one of his speeches when he used to tell the white man, he said, you took your peasants from Europe, uneducated, with no contribution, and you gave them land, you gave them seed, you gave them everything. Okay? So they needed white people to hold the land. So now the white farmer is scratching their head, so no white farmer deserved the land that they own. I bring two other incidents in that was similar. Same thing happened in South Africa. Remember, December the 12th, they used to, Alambe and the rest of them have the discussion. I don't know if you were there with those couple of sessions, but when Alambe was asking the South African ambassador, when he had him out there, I'm talking to all of us, especially the brother, had him to come to December the 12th. And Alambe, December the 12th, and Biola asked him, why isn't it you didn't transfer the land back to the Africans? And then this guy says, because the Africans, we, meaning the white people and those sellouts in South Africa who was running the place, said that in order for us to give the land back to the African, that African who wants the land, we can't give it back to the African because the Africans don't have a deed. Why they don't need, what do you mean the African? So when the Africans come, you telling them you can't give them the land back because they don't have a paper deed made up by some white person. That was the excuse. Then the question was asked, why the hell are you letting white people? Do white people, any white person in South Africa have a deed? No. So therefore, that's why Malala and the rest of Africa's coming, gotta push them out. And the Africans have to work among themselves how they're gonna redistribute the land in Africa, in South Africa. How the hell are you gonna ask an African? You pretty much, you got a pretty good idea what group was there, what group was there, but you use the excuse because the sellout people get rid of Winnie, and they use the other one related to Winnie. I don't want to use the term that I'm not. You're going to tell the African he has to have a deed. But the white man, you let him stay. Now when you keep pushing out the white people, they're now hollering, you got to compensate me for the land. Yeah, all South Africa has to do is do what we did in Vanuatu. And I was there in 1979, 80. And the issue came when the English and the French were being driven out of Vanuatu and the South Pacific. And the African, the Vanuatu people, our people, were retaking the land. So the white farmer, the English one and the French, with the pressure of England and France, the United States and Australia, they all worked together, called the Five Eyes, was trying to put pressure on Father Lenny, the Prime Minister, 1980, 79, 80. We celebrated the Independence Day with it. Vanuatu was independence on paper, but they don't control the damn thing, so they had to get the gun to push them out. So one of the lawyers, the African-American lawyer who was there, a number of us went there. Dr. Ben gave each of us in the craft a designation of what you have to do to help an African country outside of here. I don't know what other brothers who were in the craft who you. The only one that I could really say, in my personal opinion, that's not, is, who's the brother that has the book where he went to every country and he put it in? I can't think of his name, but it'll come to me. He did it. I don't know what the rest of it. So I was sitting there. Who?
Not Claude Anderson.
No, it'll come to us. So the reason that I got to Vanuatu because he instructed us, Dr. Lynn said, you don't go to Nigeria, you go to Vanuatu because there's a new, I know in Papua New Guinea, and the Prime Minister's sister said for her brother's going to be the Prime Minister, so he said you're better to help him there. Okay, that's how I got there. So a number of us had to leave because of certain international pressure. But there was a lawyer made a recommendation to the Vanuatu government. Now they pushed out the French, they pushed out the English by the gun. We were in the capital, we couldn't leave the capital because they were fighting in the periphery. Who was fighting? Father Lini and the Vanuatu party was fighting Englishmen, Frenchmen, American, Australian to shoot them off, to get them off the damn land. They were successful. So as they were leaving, they were giving the Vanuatu government pressure about U.S. you got to pay these French farmers and you have to pay the English farmers because when one of the things that we set up, my wife and I set up, I brought two of my children. One is now 53, he was around 11, and my oldest daughter, she's 40-something, and she's 1 year and 6 months. We set up an ear, nose, and throat clinic. I was supposed to set up an eye clinic, but they give pressure away from us.
No, Dr. Lewis.
So the brother said they're giving Father Lini, that's the first prime minister, pressure. Now you got the United States, Australia, England, France, all pressuring them. So they were in the dilemma. How are we going to resolve the issue of why the Frenchmen and the British, you got to pay them for their farms? Then he said, wait now, all these little young children, African children here, many of them deaf, can't hear. Why? Because when the Europeans came, they pushed them off the land, and the children had to sleep. Even though it's a tropical country, they had to sleep in the grass, and many of them got infections in the nose, ear, and throat, and made them deaf. So a lot of the children were deaf when we were teaching them, because they pushed them off the land. So then the brother says to Father Lini, here's a solution to get these white people off your back about compensating for the land. You know what the deal. What did he advise Vanuatu, the brother, the lawyer brother, what did he advise Vanuatu to deal with the issue of the French and English land backed by the United States? What did he tell them to do? We just heard it. What's the solution?
Fire.
No, what's the solution?
Ask for the deeds.
What is it?
Ask for the deeds.
I didn't hear what you said.
Ask for the deeds.
Say it loud.
Ask for the deeds.
Ask for the deeds. We will pay everybody if you. They didn't have no damn deeds. So that issue was there. So when it comes to South, any place else, ain't nobody who's there own a damn thing. That's why when the Sahel nations, Vanuatu, not Vanuatu, this, what's his name? Burkina Faso, Mali, and Nigeria. What they have done is nationalize everything. So he goes, here's the gold. Oh, this gold mine belonged to the French company, and this one belongs to the French company, the Canadian company, the United States. All these people in there that mining your gold. And then they said, okay. He said, where's your paper? Who gave you the permission to come here to mine our stuff? Nobody, they had to close their mouth. Yeah. You leave it. And you know how you leave it? With the gun. So when there was the coup in Mali in 2020, the coup in Burkina Faso in 2022, and then the coup in Nigeria was 2020. 20, 22, 23. I have the gun now. The indigenous people, they put their forces together and they told the United States, they told who was in the Sahel nations. It was France, US, European Union, what you call it, NATO, and somebody else. All of these white people in those three nations, using an example, stealing everything they could steal out of it. So when they were asked, who gave you the right to be here? Nobody. Who gave you the right? He said, you can't take this gold mine from me. Okay, where's your paper? Who did you buy it from? And because the white people in the Sahara and in Africa cannot show you one damn piece of paper where they bought anything from anybody.
They took it.
But in order to take it, you gotta have a gun. So they got themselves, they grouped together, those three nations, pick up the phone, said, Russia, we need some help. China, we need some help. North Korea, we need some help. Rwanda, we need some help. Cuba, we need some help. And Venezuela, they all send troops. You put that damn gun, people said to me, I remember, black people here, they're afraid of the police, they're afraid. Who the hell would not be afraid? You don't have any arms and they got guns. What you gonna run up? I said, you should have been in Vanuatu when you saw Vanuatu, your people disarm the Europeans and shut the damn mouth. It's the gun. So when these three Sahel nations got together and they joined forces and they got help from what's your name? It is Russia, China. See, Gaddafi, when Gaddafi was here in what's the name? Sankara, when Lambe brought Sankara here. I don't know if y'all been there. Long time ago he brought him here. He was in military. For me personally, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, and Lambe, the men portion, they're women who are equivalent. Nobody else could touch them. No matter what Pan-Africanism he say or I say, no, you can't touch what Lambe did. So, they deported them. When you got the gun, that's what you do. So Burkina Faso, Mali say, I don't give a damn what paper you got. You don't have any paper. You all leaving here with nothing. So they took over all, and they took it all over by the gun. That's how they do it. Okay? So I just wanted to bring that to your attention with this business of somebody coming in and the deeds. South Africa could have used it, they didn't use it. Vanuatu used it. You don't need no deeds. That's how you handle it. We're going to go back and forth. Now let's go. These topics are just to bring out the information for these are the things you got to. Somebody said, why you bother with all this international stuff? You can't do anything about it. I said, but you got to realize see, like I tell people, I have not personally done extensive travel, but the travel that I've done was strategic. And Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark told us what to do. You go to Egypt and you go to Sudan and Ethiopia. I didn't make Ethiopia. So he wants you to see, he wants you to be up in Sudan with the small river. He tells you go to West Africa. You gotta go to West Africa. You gotta see what's happening. So I've been to a number of these countries in West Africa. Then you gotta go to the Caribbean. So I was in there a number with medical people, African, Jamaica, all of us, we get together. I was there in about 6 or 7 of the Caribbean countries. I was there when the United States had pushed out, what's your name, Aristide. Come into Port-au-Prince. You see all this? I don't know where he is. You see the jeeps, you see the tanks, you see the military. So there's a Dr. Mitchell, I don't know if you know him, Dr. Mitchell is a brother, real fair brother. He's also an ophthalmologist. So he took me and another group, Dr. Mitchell and some of the Haitians, they would go back to Haiti periodically. And she built a clinic and a place to live to give service to the people in Haiti up in the mountains. So Dr. Mitchell would go. So I was fortunate enough, my wife and I, we went with him at the time that he went. So I had an opportunity to go to Haiti at that part of the time when the United States was physically occupied. So we fly in, and then on the plane, there's only African people going in. I think it was one of the airlines, the people, one of the ladies, the attendant said to the other lady, she speak French. She said, you don't speak French, they don't speak French, they speak their language, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
So
Yeah. So you get there, we stayed one night in Port-au-Prince, and there was a massive place where you sell things. What you call it?
a market.
A market. Massive. Few people, nobody steal from each other. When we went in, was in Port-au-Prince. We stayed for a brief time in one of the housing. At night, we couldn't go out. Gunfire and other things like that at night. And so what we did was we into Port-au-Prince, and then we housed up in a big hotel in Pétionville. To go from Port-au-Prince to Pétionville, you had U.S. military with them jeeps, small tanks. You had they controlled the area going back and forth. The United States was in the streets. And we went into a hotel, my wife and I, and the whole medical group. We went into the hotel overnight. And this hotel is filled with nothing but white men. So you know who they were. Occupation, CIA, India, whatever the hell it is. In the morning, they bring up the helicopters to survey. So Haiti, because of what your ancestors did to the French and did to Europeans to help spark these revolts, they haven't, they're still mad at them. Plus, they have gold, they have a lot of things in Haiti. So they're stealing from Haiti, they're suppressing Haiti, and Aristide had asked for troops from Venezuela, but the United States rushed their troops in before Venezuela could help. So we stayed there, then we went up into the mountains. And in the mountains you meet, the roads were, at that time, were 15 years or so ago, was terrible. And you see the poverty. And some of the people say, we used to have big black pigs that reproduce, and they would eat anything. So the Americans took out the big black pigs and brought in the little pink pigs that only eat grain that you had to buy from the United States. And you see, then that's when you actually see how people are systematically kept in poverty. Massive. So, that was my experience in Haiti, to see it for the first time. Haiti is very important strategically for the waterway to lead from the western, eastern part of the United States to get to that canal. So I said that to say that the reason that I do what I do, because I saw it firsthand what they did to our people. It was in Jamaica. It was in Haiti, I was in West Africa, Senegal, Mauritius, and you see the Europeans take away these massive trees. And you see them raping the country, just take everything and they go. So by being in West Africa, Ghana, and Togo, and Benin, I'm standing on the border of Benin and Nigeria. I don't want to cross into Nigeria because I don't have I'm the only one standing there. Everybody's going back and forth. Nobody bothered with the water. So you get to see firsthand how we live. The same way you would see down south during slavery time, the same way they had it. Now you're talking 15 years ago. So that's what sensitized me. going to Egypt, seeing what we did 2 or 3 times, myself and a few brothers had to protect Dr. Ben physically because of threat against him by a number of people in there because you're not supposed to tell people. So I've seen it there. Then Sudan, we went, Dr. Ben, I, and about 15 brothers. Dr. Ben took us into Sudan, and they were at war. And evidently, when we got to the government, they asked you, what are you doing here? 15 young men with all cameras, and Dr. Ben, what are you doing here? So they detained us. So Dr. Ben was able to pick up the phone, whatever happened, he got us through. So they took pictures of our passport, they let us go in, we could go into the desert. When in Egypt, you see Egypt. You go up into Sudan, into near the dam where you see. Cairo is Harlem. If you go to Cairo, you think you're in Harlem. Most of the white Egyptians, they live on the coast in Alexandria. But the capital is Harlem. Once you leave the capital, you go north towards Sudan. Then you have the Nubian villages. Just like in when you look in the pyramids, etc., etc., they're Nubians and they're jet black. We all run from jet black to very light skin, without any mixing and all that. So we run a full spectrum. So it was because of this, and then there was something about in Sudan we weren't supposed to make it out. We went for a second trip, the State Department blocked us. So when you're there, you realize the danger. You see Haiti, then in West Africa, Vanuatu. The only reason I and the other brothers and sisters made it out alive was because the government protected us. The people we stayed with protected us. The gods and goddesses protected us. So what I'm saying, I just give you to let you know about how there's the reasons and why does he do it? Because I was there, I saw what happened. Egypt, Sudan, 5 or 6 West African countries, in the Caribbean and South Pacific. So I saw what happened and how we live in these countries. That's how I get my limited, my attitude and why I do the things that I do, okay? No tourism. And I was just in here one time in Jamaica, I had to go, I went in, and I usually went with a team, but one time I went alone. I went in, and the people line up to get for exams and get glasses. So King was, I can't think of the small city. It was night, so now I had to have a place to sleep. No hotels. I don't know anybody there. So what they did was Lucy. I think it's Lucy, they said, there's a development that's vacant, about 15 vacancies, whatever it was. They say, we're going to put you in unit number 12. So everybody knows Dr. Lewis in unit number 12. So I went to unit 12. Not that they, don't get me wrong, I went to unit 12. I said, okay. I checked it out. I slept in unit 9. Everything locked under the damn bed. Not that anything is going to happen. Come from the United States. In this case, I was by myself. In the word that normally I went with a team of Jamaican and other ones who went around. So, Vanuatu was one, Sudan was another. A group of us almost got rained out in Jamaica. And so when you see you in here and you see how close it is. No, this is with anybody. Wherever I go, you gotta protect yourself. So what I'm saying to you is that's my background or why I do what I do, because I saw how we live and how we were treated. Okay. Now let's finish out in the next 15 minutes or so. Let's go to this map. This is the map of Mexico, Central America, a schematic of part of the western coast of South America. This is Mexico here. And what's the purpose of why I created this? You see these slash marks, those dashes? If you look close, there's an arrow going to, this is Central America. There's an arrow going through Central America that's intact. You see the 3 arrows that have dashes? You see there, 1, 2, 3, 4 arrows. 3 of them have dashes and 1 is straight. Did you see that? The one that is straight, contiguous, is the Panama Canal. These other dots, the top one here, it's in Mexico. This arrow here is Nicaragua. And the arrow there is the northern part of Colombia. Why? What happened is in Mexico, Nicaragua, and Colombia, here is the Gulf of Mexico, and here is the Pacific Ocean. So each of these countries are developing a rail link. So you put cargo in one and you ship it over. So from Gulf of Mexico, you can move things to the Pacific, right? From Pacific, without going through Panama Canal. Each of these 3 countries are developing a transportation, commercial transportation, railroads to connect the Gulf of Mexico, Pacific, to bypass the Panama Canal. Why? Because these 3 countries are rerouting their trade away from the United States of America towards Central and South America. So not only did the Chinese cut massively their purchase of these foodstuffs, these 3 countries, Mexico, Nicaragua, and Colombia, are preparing rail links to connect Gulf of Mexico and Pacific without bypassing they're going to bypass the United States completely. So that's a second group of people who are not going to be doing trade with the United States, not only because of the history of what the United States have done, but because it's a better trade with the other ones. That's what's coming. Here, you see over here, you see right, that little knot? It's called China's port in Peru, port of Chancay. China has built a massive port in Peru that can accommodate very large ships that the Panama Canal can do. Why did China build this massive port? Because this port connects Chile, Argentina, Paraguay, Brazil, Bolivia, and Ecuador. You know why? Because China, South Korea, and Japan, you see them all, is diverting their trade away from the United States into Central and South America. Why? Because you have 350 million people living in America, most of which can't buy a damn thing because we locked down with credit and credit cards and stuff. Central and South America has 700 million, twice the population, and they want goods, refrigerators, cars, just like you. So Japan, China, South Korea and Japan used to be with the United States. Now Japan and China, Japan and South Korea said to the Asians, we're all Asians. Why are we going to stay with the United States with this tariffs and this rest of it when we got 700 million people? One of the articles that I cover is owned by Mexicans. Right now. And I asked them, what's happening with trade in Mexico? She said they're buying cars, what you call this, electric cars, from who?
Not Tesla.
Who? China. So what I'm saying to you is China, with this embargo, they estimate that what the United States used to get from China, South Korea, and Japan, every month, the quantity of physical materials that you get has been cut in half. So China, South Korea, and Japan has already diverted half of their trade away from this country down to Central and South America. Mexico is now working with Canada. So what are you talking about Canada? Canada just built a pipeline. They just opened up a pipeline, an oil pipeline with heavy oil. The United States of America, for whatever the reason, they drill for oil is light oil that you put in cars and gasoline. But you need a heavy, that tarish type of oil to pave the ground, to make diesel, and other things like that. The United States don't do that. And we'll see what they do here. So Mexico said, I'm not dealing with tariffs. So Mexico is now diverting their tomatoes, their meat and everything, they're selling it to Canada. So that means you're going to get shortages of everything because the people said we don't need to do. Look, the United States of America has 4% of the world's population. Half of that is non-white. 2% of the world's population is in white America. 1960, 1970, United States manufactured 65 to 70% of everything made was made in the United
All
States.
the factories was here.
You know what the United States is down to? 2%.
If that.
2%. There is no reason to buy, to do trade with the United States. Why? 3 things the United States has. They sell oil, mainly fracking oil, that got them fine little pebbles in it.
Right.
Oil, military weapons. But now with the Iran, with Russia-Ukraine war, everybody sees the damn weapons are no good. They don't work. When you had that, when the United States and Israel attacked Iran a month or so ago, it lasted 12 days. In the 12 days, Iran used old missiles and they destroyed 35% of Israel is leveled.
Wow.
12 days with old rockets. I didn't say it now. I'm not anti this and anti that and anti this. Because when you start telling me about Jews, Dr. Ben is a Jew. He comes from Ethiopia. Jew. There are millions of black people who adhere to the Jewish religion.
Yes.
But in this country, when you say Jew, you think of a white person. Got Jews all over the place. There are more non-white human beings who are of the Jewish faith than white. As Dr. Ben wrote a book, Africa, Mother of Western Religions. The 3 Western religions is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. They all come out of Africa. There are Christian churches, Christian cities in Africa long before the Romans got Christianity. So, days, they destroyed 1/3. If they attack, what is Dr. Lewis talking about? I'm repeating what I read. Don't argue with me on it. You can read it whether you believe it or not. United States bombed Iran. When you listen, I won't give you any summary. You listen, you'll see if they did any damage at all. So, people now know that United States weapons, you have to question the quality. I don't know, we last year, so we did a presentation when the Houthis were rocketing Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia brought these anti-missile batteries from the United States. Didn't work. The Houthis bombed Saudi Arabia out. So people say, well, 3 things that the United States make money on is oil,
Guns.
weapons, and technology.
And
Those 3
And
things.
drugs.
You know, that we come into. Those are the official things. They just, in Burkina Faso, they just stopped a massive shipment of drugs coming in, and it was titled from someplace in Europe. It's supposed to be agricultural seeds. Okay. So those are the 3 things that the United States has that people could use. Oil, no good oil. If whoever bombed the Russian pipeline, they bombed it so Europe wouldn't have that free cheap oil. Now they're buying the oil from the United States at 4 times. Can't get enough, and it's got pebbles in it. So everybody knows, or at least they're saying on these telephone, these YouTube channels, they're saying the United States only has enough missiles for 2 weeks of an intensive war. So nobody's going to beat Russia on the ground. Russia is the strongest military on land. China is the strongest military ocean in terms of numbers. But in terms of ships and war material, Russia is now the dominant military force. So there's no more military force where they can threaten them. So that's what the United States is down to. So these people are saying, what do we have to worry about? What the United States going to do? Can't invade us. You're losing the war in Ukraine. You know what the problem you're having in the Middle East, so-called, with Israel, and you bomb Iran. Now, the next time, if Israel and U.S. decides to bomb Iran, and that if the Iranians are saying that they could destroy 1/3 of Israel in 6 weeks with the easy stuff, it's not going to be over, it's not going to be here. The United States cut the aid to Africa, the best thing they could do. But you tariff here and tariff, so Africans said, we don't need to deal with you. So now the Africans, we'll go through it if we have time, the Africans have instituted a whole other relationship with the Europeans, and we'll get into that. So that's why I put that here. China, South Korea, and Japan have shifted their trade to Central and South America away from here. You can get what you want, but it's going to be a short supply, be expensive as hell. Okay, so they're preparing. So go back to Canada. Canada opened the pipeline. United States put tariffs, so they said they turned the pipeline, instead of going south to U.S., they turned it north, west. China's picking up all the oil now. So Canada says that we're disconnecting from the United States. They're dealing with China, they're dealing with Australia, they're dealing with Europe. Because There's nothing that the world needs from the United States. And the United States can't steal anymore. And I'll give you a quick view if we get a chance to go through it here. They had a flash, so we mix it. They had a flash on Burkina Faso. There was an attack on an outpost in Burkina Faso, and 50 Burkina Faso soldiers were killed. I don't know if you heard of it. Okay. So what they're saying is Burkina Faso knows that those 100 or so-called jihadists, we all know motorcycles, gas, what you call this, satellite phones. They had intelligence and everything to pull off that attack. So Burkina Faso, they're saying, I have identified, most likely you say, who's doing it? Well, somebody might say, I didn't say it. Somebody might say, who uses jihadists? After Gaddafi was killed, and they bombed and they took over and knocked out Libya, those jihadists popped up. All of the countries are saying, all those jihadists that are attacking Mali, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, they didn't have that until the fall of Saudi Arabia. We don't have time, but we can document, we know who put the jihadists there. Okay? So, they're saying that was coordinated. It just happened a couple of days ago. And I'm going to go very quick. What I'm reading is that the country has galvanized. You can say they realize that it isn't just trying to kill Traore. Somebody's trying to destabilize all of you. So you can't eat and feed your children. So what are they doing now? People are signing, they're putting together, they already have, they say 50,000 National Guard, but the people are now coming in to build a very strong army. They said Burkina Faso, pick up the phone, whatever they do, the Russians have sent in troops. And these, I'm just reporting what I read. That Russia made a statement. Now y'all can check me on this. Say I made a mistake, I tell you I have amnesia.
What did you say?
Russia said that they're going to protect Burkina Faso and the Sahel at any cost. Because they understand that's 75 million people. One of the richest areas in the world. You find another area that you have so much concentrated oil, uranium, everything is there. That's what kept Europe going. The Sahel nation. So you check out, I'm going to say you check out whether or not Russia said they're going to defend the Sahel at any cost. So what they're reporting is now Burkina Faso is intensifying their military-industrial complex. They make bullets, they make pistols, they make machine guns. They're now making trucks and tanks. They're making drones to surveil the whole area. They're already making airplanes. They already got electric car that they made that the people are buying for them. So they say, if I can remember, what is it? I took a note on it. I'm not going to look for it. They're building a national, they call it a Sahel security block. So those three nations are going to have tens of thousands of soldiers, military people, assisted by whatever Russia, specifically Russia, has the best everything when it comes to planes, when it comes to these drones and everything. So they said Burkina Faso is now producing their own drones to have enough to keep an eye on it. And then what I want you to check out, if you get an opportunity, because I don't want to make a statement and then it's wrong. There's a possibility that there are four countries that's blocked together, whose military work together. That's Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Now we got to look out to see whether the Sahel nation are going to make a military, what's the word? A military, I can't think of the word. They're going to formally form a military alliance. Okay? That's why they couldn't overthrow the Sahel. You could overthrow Gaddafi, because you didn't have China, Russia, North Korea, Iran strong. Now you have that. Okay, let's go on for the last 2 or 3 pages. Now, what I'm going to do is to throw in this page, so I want to get this last bit in. Can you find this map? It's in there. I think it's the second page from the end. Yeah, it's here.
Russia?
Oh, yeah.
You got it?
This is.
Yeah. Okay. So we know what Canada is doing. We know what Central and South America, you've lost them. And I'm pretty sure people pulling out their maps. That's what Splendid Weapons said they did to us. So now they have the resentment of what the United States did to Central and South America. Now if you look at this map, Ray Ray's not here to show it, but if you look at this map, it's a map of West Central Asia. Very, very important. This is a map of West Central Asia. And in the map, and you say, well, what does this got to do with you? Everything. Because this is the region in the near future that Africa is going to be doing most of their trading. No longer with the Europeans, no longer with the United States. The massive amount of trade is going to be done by the eastern portion of Africa and the Asians. Remember the old Silk Road? The old Silk Road was that trade between China and Africa. Mainly that loop toward Egypt. You know, Egypt had the Suez Canal. But Africa was always connected to Asia by a land bridge. They just cut it. So the old Silk Road was the trade route between China and Africa, not Europe. Europe didn't make a damn thing. And it had a land trail, but most of the trade was done through water. You load it on China, India, what it is, you come across the Indian Ocean, and you come up to East Africa, trading with East Africa. So when we get another map of East Africa, if you visualize East Africa, it's Egypt, Sudan, Eritrea, Kenya, Tanzania. You will get a map. Most of the trade in the next 5 to 10 years, most of the trade that the African countries are going to do is not with the United States or Europe, it's going to be with Asia. Next time that we get a chance, we will study in a little more detail. These Asian countries, let me call them out: Iran, Pakistan, India, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan. You see all of these countries? Big countries, a lot of mountains. This part of the world has about a half population. So this area is very populous. And this was the area where the United States once was up in Iran stealing their oil. This was the place where India, where the European, the English, went in to this part of Asia you call what is Afghanistan, Pakistan, and what you call India, right? 90% of the people are African-based people. People that are Wasi. And when you hear the East India Company, the British, here it would be in Pakistan, Afghanistan area where they were growing the heroin. That's what the Europeans were in the first and second war. First and second, what you call it? The Opium Wars. Okay, this is the areas they were in. The United States was in Afghanistan. Why? They were there for the minerals. They were there to keep an eye on the rest of Asia, and they were there primarily for the heroin poppy. So the United States and the Europeans, not only were they in Africa, they were there in Iran, they were there stealing in all of these areas, they were there in Afghanistan, 20-year war, Pakistan, India, been there for almost 100 years, the East Indian country, killed down 50 to 75 million people living in this area. So these Asians, these Europeans were bothering with these Asians just like the Europeans were bothering with Africans. Now that Africa is in a block, these Asian countries are beginning to block together to do trade. And that's Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. These Asian countries are in a military economic bloc called the Shanghai Cooperative Organization. So you have two massive blocs in the world of human beings that control large areas of land, large population, and not large natural resources. So in the next 5 to 10 years, most of the global trade is going to be done in Africa, especially on the East Coast, and with these Asian countries. The Africans and Asians, the people in the Caribbean, and the people in Central and South America, who used to run the world globally before the European came out to start killing off people and taking the land. It's coming back to that. So we can get it in detail. But the reason that the United States and Europe are pounding on Iran is because Iran is strategically located. If you look at the map, if you go from the Indian Ocean, the trade can come from Africa, go to the Indian Ocean, and they put it off on the port of Chabahar. That's just the way they go, right? Why? Then they're going to send their trade by rail. They'll send it by rail into Afghanistan. They want to send it by rail up so that Russia will be able to trade with Asia and Africa through this corridor so that the European can't block them in the Mediterranean. It's simple stuff. So they're building railroads. You got railroads here. They're building a railroad system. So you put the trade here to Afghanistan. Because the reason this hookup is important because this is very mountainous. So what they want to do is they want to run a railroad and across the Caspian Sea, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan. So United States is short, bombing, trying to break down Iran because Iran is the country that's going to dominate. Why? Because there's 90 million people. Why? Because they live there. The United States don't live there. So Iran is the dominant country here. India is here, and China. All of these three areas used to be under Europeans. English was knocking off the Indians, no more. Afghanistan. So now, the same way that the African countries are coming from under the colonialism put on them by Europeans and Americans, the Asians are coming from under it. Two massive blocks between Asia and Africa. You got 90% of the world's population, 90% of the trade and stuff. So that trade that is diminishing from Central and South America, they're diverting it down to Central and South America. They say bye-bye U.S. The Canadians saying bye-bye U.S. The Africans are saying bye-bye U.S. and the Asians. And that's one of the reasons. But right now, you have 4 countries that's helping Burkina Faso. Militarily, technology, etc., etc. Burkina Faso makes electric cars. They make railroad cars. They make railroad tracks. They just built an airplane. They build drones. It's easy to become technologically advanced. This country, the Sahel in 5 years will be more industrialized than the United States. The United States is already deindustrialized. So that's what we put here. The continent.
You got the protection.
You got the protection because Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran, those are the 4 most powerful countries. You can forget the United States, France, and Germany. They're weak. But the powerhouse, the ones who have these massive militaries and massive technology is Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. That's the pact. And Russia and China has already said any country that's get attacked, I can't speak for them because they said, let's keep it, said the doctor will sometimes don't know what he's talking about, which is good, but at least I got it out. I made a mistake, but I got it out. So the dominant powerhouse after World War II was United States. The 2 most dominant was United States and Russia. That's why they were always trying to beat down Russia. But right now, most of the world's population is in Asia, in Africa. That's who's going to be doing most of the global trade, 95%. The United States is going to be like a backwater.
Is Asia and who of the 2 dominant? Asia and who?
There are 4 major military powers. Big China, Big Republic of China, Iran. No, Big China and Russia. They're the 2 most powerful in terms of military and technology. You add on to them Iran and North Korea. Those 4 countries. United States, Russia right now is fighting, Ukraine. But Ukraine is backed by the United States. It's really Ukraine and it's really Western Europe and America, US, fighting against Russia. Russia is beating on them. So anybody following see the strongest military on land and even in terms of missiles is Russia. Nobody beats them. The strongest navy is China. Now you put North Korea, you put China, those 4 countries, Russia alone is beating the United States and all of Europe in the Ukraine war. So now, that's how I dream. I dream of that. I live in that world. I don't live in the world of the Trumps and I live in that world. So that's what I'm saying is that you want to trying to see, let you see big trends. The powerhouse is Asia and Africa. Okay. Now, let's get it in before the time. We're going to have to go to a second part or introduce it and then we have to go in more detail. Okay. Depending, whatever he tells me to cut. I'm going to try to get this in. There's much more, but let's get this in before the time. Get this page, which the right-hand corner says USA. Now, after this, Ray, you're going to have to tell me to cut. You have this page? I'm going to show you. You have it, right? It's got this black mark on it, so that, yeah. That black mark was just to let you know that the photocopy machine did it for me.
Can I interrupt? I have a question I'm gonna ask you.
Okay, so let us get this in, then question and answer, and then later on we got the other one. I just wanted to get you a big picture. Okay, now, you see this? Here. It says USA, right?
Yes.
Oil, gas, production. So the United States is the largest exporter of oil. Maybe because they're getting fracking. Fracking means you just crack up a lot of rockets and you get the oil, but it's mixed with pebbles and stuff. So right now, which country exports the most oil by volume? United States. Mainly fracking. They're saying within 5 to 10 years, United States is going to have to import oil to survive. So this is not a permanent thing. That's for the regular oil that you put in for burning and vacuuming. There's another type of oil that the United States don't produce, and they totally depend. That's the heavy oil. You know, oil comes in different,
Viscosity.
yeah, different viscosity because of the connection. So the gasoline oil is V8 or whatever it is, so it's 8 carbons. But the heavy oil might be 40 or 50 chains. It's that heavy oil. That's what you use for tar in the ground. That's what they make diesel. And they make all kinds of diesel for everything, for airplanes, for cars, for ships, all of it. Now, they say only 1% of the railroads in the United States are electric. So they have at least, they say almost 90, 97, 98, 97, 98, 96, 97, 98 of the rail system in the United States is still electric. No, still a diesel. Those railroads, not the ones we see here run electric, but most of the commercial railroads that you move stuff around is diesel. So you need diesel for your trucks, you need diesel for your locomotives, you need diesel for your airplane. All of those things you need that the United States can produce. Let's go through it again. The United States produces fracking oil. A lot of oil, but they don't, and within the border that the United States controls, they don't get the heavy oil. That thick oil comes from Venezuela, Canada, and Russia. Now Canada has diverted it away. I don't know what Venezuela is doing, and if Russia cuts them, you could have a shortage of diesel. See, these are all things that you pick up and you find. Okay, that's what this means here. So this here just says what they import, heavy oil. Canada, Russia, Venezuela. 5 to 10 years they may be out of it. Let's go to this one here. You can't see it there. It says gas, from this gas, oil, 4 times Russia. You see this one in the middle here that says France, Belgium, UK, Spain, Germany, Italy. You see this square? Right here. See this square?
Yes.
You got an answer?
Yes.
Okay. And then you see a line drawn from France into these 5 countries. Correct? Right here.
Yes.
That represents the electric grid in Europe. Plus France sells uranium. So let's drop down to this square here. Okay? This is what is printed. France, 42 nuclear reactors, 51% are old, 50% are viable. Of the 50%, so there's 20, 40, 52 nuclear reactors. Half of them don't work. The other half is still viable. Of the 25 that are still viable, a number of them you can't use because the water level is too low in some places in France. In other words, you gotta have these big reactors, gotta be next to a river. You need a large amount of water to cool them. Right? Okay? So why? So they say low water level. What's he talking about? These big nuclear reactors, they're all next to a river. Because you gotta have a large quantity of water to flood in to take away the excess heat. So France has 56 nuclear reactors. Let's say they have 25 reactors as viable. Of the 25 reactors, maybe 3, 4, or 5 can't be used because the water around them is too low. And then the water, in real hot temperatures, the water is too hot to use. Okay, so that's how France generates 50, 60, or 70% of the electricity in France is generated by nuclear reactors. Here, 20% sell uranium to European countries. So not only does France provide electricity to these countries, but they sell uranium. Where is France getting uranium from? Niger, right? Uranium from Niger, N-I-J-E-R, that big country, one of the Sahel nations. That's right above, not Nigeria, right above Nigeria. It's called Niger. Niger has vast amount of uranium. It's readily accessible, and it's almost high grade, very little purified. So for 50 years, France has been taking the uranium out of Nigeria. And how much were they paying? Okay, now you take this side here. You switch over here. France, 2023, uranium supply. They were buying, France right here, they were buying uranium from Nigeria to electrify half of Europe through their nuclear reactor. They were getting uranium from Nigeria. 80 cents a kilo. 80 cents a kilo. At that time, before the coup, the French was taking Nigeria's oil and uranium for 80 cents a kilo under Bassoum, the one they took out of office. At that time, uranium was selling on the world market for $200
Per kilo.
Now, let's look over here.
Profit.
Profit, you talk? Okay, so you see what they've been doing. Nigeria was critical to keeping the electricity going in Europe. After the coup, see this page? After the coup, Nigeria cut off France completely. And France had to go to Kazakhstan or Canada to now buy the same oil, gas, or uranium for 80 cents. They got to pay them 200 because Nigeria said, I ain't selling you anything.
Yeah, good.
As a result of that, now you see the type of resource exploitation that they were doing to Africa that kept Europe and the United States where they are. That's what made this country. Okay. Terms of time. Now, so you understand what happened.
Yes.
Now, result of the fact that they're not getting, Chico, you get the uranium from Nigeria, 80 cents a kilo. It's almost you don't have to purify. You have to purify. It's such a high grade that it's minimal purification because uranium is in rocks. So you got to go through a whole purification to get it out, okay? But it's right there. You don't have to dig too much for it. You pick it right up and it's almost filtered.
So it's premium.
Premium, 80 cents. Now that Nigeria made the coup and denied it, they have to go to Kazakhstan, way up in Asia, or they have to go to Canada. Much longer trip.
Money, money, money.
20. Not only the price, but the insurance and the transportation and everything else.
Labor.
Right, and most of the uranium that is purified, they now have to send it to Russia to refine it.
Because it's not as good quality-wise.
Right. So as a result of that, you look on the lower column on this one. You see the lower column? France, Spain, Italy. For their manufacturing and commercial varying massive blackouts. Got no electricity. Just that one country, stealing uranium, was keeping the commercial and the residential of Europe was keeping 1/3 of Europe functioning. Now they got shortages. That's showing you how important that coup was. And that's what your countries are doing. They're cooing and they're kicking out the European. Now it's going on till let us finish this one page. We got, the next time we're going to have to go in more detail, but at least you get the foundation idea. Let us look up on this upper half.
Africa?
You see this upper half, what they call Russia. You see the arrow from Russia? What was Russia supplying to Europe?
Gas and oil?
Russia, gas, oil, dirt cheap. Now that instead of buying high-grade oil and gas from Russia continuously at $1, United States is selling the Rocky oil for $4. That's one of the reasons that the industry in Europe is collapsing. Because you got to have fuel. So Russia would ship them oil and gas, coal, wood. Europe doesn't have anything in it. Food, fertilizer, minerals, and uranium. You look on here in the middle. What was Russia, what was Africa supplying to Europe via theft? Gas, oil, coal, and wood. And what does Africa supply to Europe to this day? Food, fertilizer, minerals, and uranium. Russia has pretty much cut them off because of the war. And now that African countries, we're going to end here, but the African countries are saving. So Africa and Russia have sending materials to keep Europe viable. If you cut off, there was Brother Nana Dix. Anybody remember Brother Nana Dix? Well, anyhow, he's an elder. He passed. His formula was, long time ago, shut down the damn border. Don't let anything go out. So you see that what Europe and the United States have been stealing. I use uranium as an example. What? Coal, oil, wood, food, fertilizer, minerals, uranium. To the point that Europe is going to. Now, Africa has 65% of arable land on the earth. In other words, somebody made a survey that you look at all of the land mass that you can use to grow food. Africa has 65% of it. Africa has always fed Europe. So now you know what the Africans are doing now? With everything. Burkina Faso is an example. We nationalize. We're going to stop you from stealing our uranium. You're going to stop you from stealing our gold. We're going to stop you from stealing our oil. They stopped it. And so now, Africa, the way the Europeans had it, they would either be stealing it for almost nothing, or they ask you to send raw materials to Europe for $1 a pound. They'll take your raw material, take a tree, they'll take that valuable lumber for $1 a pound. Because when I was in Senegal, you could see those massive trees they're taking away. So they take the tree away for nothing. You take that tree, and by the time you cut it up, what do they call where you cut up the wood? What's it called? Forgot the place where you go to
Sawmill.
Huh?
The sawmill with it.
No, I know, but what's the name of the company, business? So, okay. Where they make wood products, it's slipping.
Furniture.
Who?
Furniture.
No, what is it? Okay.
We got it, we understand.
So it again?
We understand with it.
Okay. So they take this tree away for nothing. By the time they cut it up, make furniture here, make this, they sell you back the product for 50 times of what it's worth.
Yeah.
Wood processing.
So the countries in Africa said, no more exporting these big trees. We're going to hold on to the forests. Then we're going to grow bamboo. Now they're producing more bamboo because like the Indians and the Asians, the bamboo was very valuable building.
10 minutes, Doc.
Okay. So they're not sending out. Burkina Faso would grow tomatoes, they'd eat some, and then they will send them back to Italy and Spain for, say, 5 cents a pound.
5 cents?
I'm just using an example, 5 cents a pound. The Italians will take it, they will eat it, they will process it, and send back the can of tomatoes for $10, 10 times, you see? So they were doing this to everyone, your wood, your uranium, your oil, the food. And I'll give you one example. With the Ukraine-Russian war, Ukraine used to produce a lot of food to feed Europe. But because of the war, they can't grow the supply of a carbohydrate, cassava, manioc. So the Europeans would eat wheat and sunflower seeds. I say that was their main staple, which is carbohydrate. They can't get it now. So the European Union has gone to Nigeria and they made a declaration. In order to meet the caloric needs of Europeans, we gotta eat Nigeria, we need your cassava. So now the cassava thing is booming. Okay? So now here's an example of the food they were. You were sending them cassava, you send them you go into Europe, England, anything that's there on sale didn't come from there. Okay, so what each countries are now doing is saying, Zimbabwe, I'm not sending you the lithium.
Marriage.
Because, whatever his name is, I want to simply give you the lithium, but let's say it's 10 cents an ounce. They ship the lithium, then they process it, the lithium, put it in batteries, so they buy it for $1, and by the time you process it and you build something, they call it added value. You hear that term?
5 minutes, Doc.
Okay. And now India, when the Lamed Brad would have the heads of state come into Manhattan, you would be able to go there. One of the heads of state, I forgot exactly which country, said that that's our problem. We have, everything is valuable, but we have to, they made it so that we just sell raw material.
Giving it away. They're not selling it.
So now, that's right. So now each country now is saying, you're not going to do the lithium. I'm not selling you the lithium. and Zimbabwe say to China, you can't buy more lithium. I'll process the lithium first, and instead of giving it to you for 5 cents, I'm gonna process it, I'll sell it to you for 35%. But in order for you to get that 35% that I refine, you have to bring in a factory so that we can set up a master factory so we can refine completely and don't need you. That's what Africans are doing now. They're not letting the raw material go. They're holding it in. U.S. and the rich aren't going to help you, so they go to China or they go someplace else and say to them, industrialize it. And that's what Burkina Faso and the rest of them are doing. They're trading with people and they're using, and we're in it here because there's too much investment. They're using barter. So, for instance, Nigeria wants nuclear reactors to help to give them energy to industrialize. But then you don't have to build these massive nuclear reactors that take 4 years and cost $30 billion. They have many nuclear reactors. You ever heard when they say the submarine or the ship could travel and don't have to be recharged for 30 years? Okay, but that's what they're doing. So Nigeria, working with Nigeria, Burkina Faso, working with the Russians, and say, okay, we need 10 small nuclear reactors, and you connect them to your electric grid. So now you have a lot of power. The wife of the president of Sierra Leone said, 2 things you gotta be able to do. You gotta be able to feed yourself, and you gotta have electricity. Once when you get electricity, the quality of your life increases and you can commercialize and make whatever you want. Okay? So that's what Africans are now at this point. They're at the point where they're not shipping it away anymore. They're holding it, they're processing it for themselves, and they want the industry to be brought in so that they will be able to do the industry themselves. That's why when you look up 5 to within 10 years, Africa will be the manufacturing center of the world. It used to be U.S. and Europe after they took us out, and that, forgot the name of the thing, Industrial Revolution, was textiles and metals that you brought from Europe. Okay, so that now China, Japan, China, and North Korea, Japan, China, South Korea, they have the largest global cut of manufacturing. So if you took everything that's manufactured, probably about 65 or 70% of manufactured stuff you'll get from China, you'll get from Japan, and you get from South Korea. Remember, Japan and South Korea, they were way down. Come up 10 years, those of us who are still here 5 or 10 years, Africa will have to be the most industrialized country. By 2050, and I'll end right here, some of the, these Europeans, I think it was the Germans and the Finns and somebody else, as they saw Burkina Faso build up and the Sahel build up, they asked them, how come you, when they were the coup, you said you were going to shut down your embassies? Why didn't you shut it down? They said, well, we were waiting. Now they want to work with Burkina Faso and the rest of them. And they asked, why? They told you point blank. They said, that's why we always talk about population. They said, at the rate things are going, 1/3 of all human beings by 2050 will be in Africa. Now, that's you 1/3 of the world. Now, if you start adding up the Africans that's still going to be multiplying here, and you add up the ones in Brazil, and the fact that most of India, after 2050, probably if a third, 33% in Africa, probably the total number of human beings on Earth by 2050 who look like any one of us is going to be at least 50% of the world's population.
All right,
Let me just make the last point. So those diplomats said we're going to stick with Africa because they got all the resources and they said the same thing. 2050, third of the world is going to be in Africa. They're going to all be young. They're going to all be workforce. They got all the natural resources. Africa is the future. Forget about Trump and all of that other nonsense. And one last thing, I personally feel the way I would ask for reparation. The white people here, they're not giving you, I'm not going to curse, you know. But what happens in 5, 6, 7, 8 years like they're doing now? Pick up the phone to England, to Germany, to America. If you don't treat African people well, I'm cutting you off from everything. That's how I think we're going to get what I see as reparation, just personally. Reach the point when Africa gets powerful enough that they can collapse the U.S. or collapse European like that, which they're doing already. You pick up the phone and say, look, I want you to treat African people good. Make up for all, give them what they want. They wanted something. Or you don't get this, you don't get that, you don't get that. Spain, about 4 or 5 European countries want to quit Europe and they want to go with that, with the BRICS. So that's what they're seeing. People who have traveled the world, who see what we are talking about, they know where things are going. And that's when you will be treated well, because they ain't gonna have no choice. You tell the United States that you want to treat African people right, or give them good credit like it. Those who want to stay or have to stay, there's nothing wrong with that. You built the damn country. But if you want to stay, don't push you down to the bottom. All these people who got homes here, millions of us who don't have the home, that's when they did the red line and they denied you. So you just say, look, you make up for that, you make up for that, you make up for that, or you're not getting a damn thing. Then you will get good treatment. I don't want reparation, I want good treatment. Those who have to stay here, those who are here, you built the place if you want to stay, but you don't stay on the bottom of the thing. You're commensurate with your contribution. Then you will get it. That's power.
Influence.
Power. Okay. So now hold on to this handout. I'm going to come back with the handout the next time I'm presenting. We're going to finish it up and go back. So for me, it's important that I take this avenue to make a presentation, because that's the future. So people will understand there's an out. You don't have to, it won't always be like this, and it wasn't always be like this. If things the way they're going, with all these countries pull away, the white people are already saying we got a problem.
They see it.
1/4, 1/3, some places 1/2 of many European countries are not white. And then they looking at you and say, how many of you non-white people are here? At least half the country is not white. Forget about this one in the Caribbean who don't understand that they're black enough. Deal with white people and see what they see. They don't see no Puerto Rican or Dominican and all that other stuff. You got to have Africa strong to pick up the phone to these white folks here. Germany, they're saying that white people in Germany are already the minorities. So when you consider birth rate and everything, what is Europe? I don't know, but what is Europe? Maybe 15% non-white? At the rate the babies are going, they're going to come a point where it's going to be 20 or 30%.
All right, we're going to take one question from the Zoom and one question from the floor. The first one is going to be from the Zoom. Anybody from the Zoom has a question for Doc?
Yes, I do.
Doc, you will answer the question in 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, always good to hear from you, Doc.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, Doc, as far as nuclear power is concerned, where is Africa in the future? Or should we be pursuing to further protect ourselves? I guess having is always good to have than not to have. But you ain't gotta protect the resources. as well.
The only way I can answer it is what I've read. They said Burkina Faso, Niger, and Rwanda are working with Russia and other individuals to provide them with small nuclear reactors to generate the electricity and energy you need. So there are 3 countries already in negotiation. Egypt, Russia is finishing a massive nuclear plant in Egypt. So Egypt is going to have one, big one. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, instead of having a big one for 50 billion, you get a small one for 2 or 3 billion. You know how you got your cell phone and you can get a charger that's zoom? And that's why they can have a submarine or a cargo ship move around the ocean for 30 years without refueling, because that's what you need. So the answer to your question is, it isn't a matter of what I or you think, because we don't run the country. You look at what your people on the continent is doing. Egypt has it already. They're finishing off a nuclear plant. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they're working with Russia to put in the small nuclear. What's wrong with it? Why did France decide to build 52 nuclear reactors? Because they wanted that energy. It's much cheaper that way. I mean, I don't know the long run what all of this, the waste product is going to cost human. France has 52. France is collapsing. That's the main energy. Burkina Faso and the rest of them said we need energy. We're going to still use oil. We're going to still use gas, but we want the nuclear energy. So the answer to your question, 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Burkina Faso, Niger, and probably Mali are all working with Russia for the small nuclear reactors for energy. And the rest of them are going to do it.
Real quick, just to segue with that, to a real short question today. Is there any alternative to these, towards this nuclear, I guess, holocaust or destruction? To be an equalizer, to bring about peace instead of continue seeking war.
Well, the next time we come, the last 3 sheets, you will see the wars that has happened globally in the last 100 to 150 years. They're all European wars. That's it. And anybody who has nuclear weapons, you can't use it because everybody's going to die.
For sure.
Everybody's going on this one. Question from, because he's dealing with time. Whatever you say, what you think.
Well, is there any, this may be a rumor on YouTube, is there any truth to there being created the United States of Africa and the issuance of passports to people in the diaspora? It's something I came across the other day, but I cannot verify.
So that she's asking about what's the status of passports in Africa, right?
Well, no, there was something that it was connected to Ibrahim Traore pushing this initiative of having a United States of Africa with issuance of passports to those in the diaspora. I don't know, I cannot verify, but I'm just asking if you would heard.
Okay, I don't know either. In most of the even Ghana, when Ghana had the return a couple of years ago, the return, they want you to return and help build a country. But when you return, you can apply to Ghana as a diaspora, and you put in your application, and if you pass, they'll give you a certificate to say we allow you to stay in the country indefinitely. Okay, but you still got to pass all about your name and number. You don't have military, blah 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 blah. In Africa, from what I understand, you can double check it. Ghana is not giving free citizenship. What Ghana did as a return, they gave about 400 to 500, the president gave them citizenship. So 400 or 500 Africans got the citizenship for whatever the reason. But the masses of us, if you want to go to Ghana, you live in most countries, they'll allow you to come in, but you got to fill out the paper. All your papers, your birth certificate, you don't have a visa, and then you got to wait 4 or 5 years, and you have to learn the language. So you can do the research and bring it back to my knowledge, there's no country that's just going to give you citizenship because you asked for it. Some small countries, you get a citizenship if you bring $250,000, if you're doing a factory. Other than that, most countries want to screen to see who's coming in. So Benin just did Spike Lee and his wife. I think it was Benin or Togo made them the, I think it was Benin, made Spike Lee and his wife their ambassadors for the diaspora. Because they have high profile, right? So they want them to rest to get us, the diaspora, to come. And why not? We're highly trained people. All of the diaspora, lawyers, doctors, carpenters, people who bring up families, we're valuable to them to help them build a continent. So if you can get an honor, if you can get the president of Ghana to write you or the president to give you, they can do that. But for the masses, well, you got to put in the application like everybody
This is
else.
something different, I saw more comprehensive, so it may not be something verified.
You have
Not
to,
individual
and
countries.
you have to research it.
Yeah.
From my limited research, Ghana will give you the right, when you know who you are, no criminal record, to stay indefinitely because you're diaspora. I'll give you this certificate to say we allow you to stay in Ghana indefinitely. If you want to be a citizen in Ghana, you look up the rules and regulations. If your grandmother or your grandfather, there's certain connections, but it's not. The two basic ways that you're going to become citizen is fill out the paper, meet the criteria, 5 years, language, everything, you're a citizen. That's one way that mass of us will have to go through, and 500 were fortunate enough to have the president, not Muhammad, not the new one, but the other one that left. They gave 450. But any country wants you to come. They want you to be, they don't want you to come and sit. They want you to be active, something to
Progress.
They got enough people that need uplifting. But the key that I like to emphasize globally. Now, if Africa has 65% of the arable land, there's something going on in Africa. That the areas that are beginning to get greenery, the rainforests are coming back. From Senegal all the way over to Eritrea. Mainly women, they've been planting millions of trees. They're planting the trees, right?
Yeah.
Which is excellent. But there are areas where it's raining heavy and water is coming up. So parts of the Sahara is turning green.
Really? Wow.
Now, and we're in here. When we were in Egypt with Dr. Ben, we asked Dr. Ben, how is it that these temple complexes have downspouts? He said it used to rain here. When you go to Egypt, you'll see that in the tombs and temples and stuff, you'll see the animals that were in what is Egypt. Right now we go to Egypt, it's mostly desert, right? That northern part is mainly desert. From the tip, the Sahara. They say from 2,000 to 4,000 years ago, it was a tropical rainforest. And when you go into Sahara, there's skeletons of crocodiles and fish. So we know that there's a certain rotation of the earth every 2, 4, or 6,000 years. The Sahara, so that's when, see, you go to Egypt now, it's desert. But Dr. Ben said it rained back then. And then when you see the pictures on the walls, the tigers, the alligators, Tutankhamun is fishing, So we stand here in desert, 2,000, 3,000 years, it wasn't a desert. What happens when the earth makes that rotation back again? It's going to rain again in the Sahara. So if Africa has 60% of the arable land now, and they're replanting, and then if in 2,000 years, how many of us will be here 2,000 years from now?
We'll still be here.
Huh?
Amen.
No, but you could see that they're going to come a time if 1/3 of the human beings are going to be living in Africa, and then in 1,000 years or whatever it is, if that whole area turns lush, the world is going to go back to the way it was, where most of the human beings on the earth look like you, in all
right.
colors and everything.
Ladies and gentlemen, give Dr. a great big hand.
So what you living in now is like people that's transient. That's going to be gone.
So what he's saying, you gotta make your plans and see what's happening. Give him a great big hand.
That